Hello and welcome to DFS Saturday for Week 4. Tony, AJ, and myself are all here for you. Coming off of last week, I think combined, AJ and I made over $500 probably off DFS. Feeling pretty good?
Yeah, I had a pretty good week last week, and I told myself coming into this week, I told you guys before I even made my first lineup that I was heavily off this week. It's Saturday night, and that's not the case at all. I am just as in as I was the past 2 weeks. So let's get it popping.
Alright, so we're going to start off. We're going to do this like we've done the past couple weeks. Tony, AJ, and I are going to give you a QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defense, and one steal for your lineup. We may then fill out, maybe we'll work together on a lineup, see what we come up with. But that's how every episode's going to be, and that this week is no different if you're new. So I'll go first. My QB this week is Danny Dimes. I shit on him all this year for being way overdrafted. And you know what? As soon as the preseason started and he came out, I was starting to feel bad about my take. Like, he actually looked pretty good. He looked confident. He took way more shots than I expected. And he's going up against one of the worst defenses that I've seen in years against the pass. Daniel Jones at 5,300. I don't see how you don't. I mean, there's a lot of good QBs, but if you're trying to play a really stacked lineup, he's such a good move for your quarterback with his price. Last week, 2 touchdowns, 336 yards, 28 yards rushing. He had 2 rushing TDs? No.
Yep.
Oh, he did. Holy
Yeah,
Lord.
yeah, too.
Yeah, that kind of propped up his
He's got
score, but
wheels,
still.
I think against Washington, you're looking at a baseline of 2 TDs and 300 passing yards, and then whatever he does rushing. And I actually think he might. You know, when Saquon went out of that game, he kind of got unleashed. I think Saquon going out, I know this is a hot take, but I think it helped Daniel Jones because it just allowed him to play instead of them trying to force the ball to Saquon. I think maybe once Saquon comes back and they reevaluate how to go at the game plan, it'll be better for him. But right now it's the Daniel Jones show because I think Wayne Gallman's not a good player. And he's one of those guys that I think is actually kind of a trap play this week with how cheap he is. But anyway, Daniel Jones going up against a horrible defense at his price is a great play. I realize he's only had 1 start under his belt, but the start looks so good. I feel confident playing him in a DFS lineup. Go down to AJ with yours.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I do agree with you as far as Danny Dimes being a good pick. Just because the running back slate this week, in my opinion, is pretty top heavy, and finding those discounts where you can get them without sacrificing your floor by doing that is going to be important this week from my evaluation of the DraftKings slate. So my quarterback pick at this week is Matt Ryan at 5,900. We've talked a little bit about this matchup. You, Matt, me, and Tony, a little bit about the Titans. And, you know, there's this conception that the Titans' defense is extremely stout, and that's partly why Matt Ryan, I would say, his price is this low, and I think that his ownership isn't going to be extremely high. But Matt Ryan has been pretty stellar thus far this season, and last week he had an awesome game. And I can see him having another awesome game at home this week. I still think that offense is, as far as weapons go, is just one of the most talented ones in the league. So I'm going to bet on Matt Ryan this week at 5,900 in a week, like I said, where I'm going to need to take some sort of discounts where I can get them because of the sure things that I want in the slate. So if you can save money and go below 6,000 at quarterback, I think Matt Ryan is a nice high floor, high ceiling type option that you can go with.
I don't love it, but I also don't hate it, especially since he is at home in this game. That's the big thing for me.
Yeah, I think the ownership thing is just right on point. I don't think anyone's really considering him.
No, I don't think anyone's playing Matt Ryan. That is a great, if he goes off and you're playing him, that's an easy plus 20 points over a lot of people.
Thank you.
You're welcome, AJ. All right, Tony, go ahead.
So my quarterback is Case Keenum. He's only 4,900, And to build off what AJ said, you're definitely going to be saving a lot of money. And it's one of those games where it's two terrible defenses going up against each other. And I like a lot of players on the Redskins this week. And if you think Redskins players are going to do good this week, they have to get the ball somehow. And I don't think this is a week that Case Keenum gets benched unless somehow the New York Giants defense turns into the Bears defense, which definitely is not going to happen. So, and has had a couple other really solid weeks. Like, he's pretty much been startable every single week in DFS and regular fantasy football, so he should be a great play.
I mean, he doesn't look bad. I
Just when he thinks the first down is the goal line, so that's the only concern I have.
There's been this, like, I guess it is very narrative driven that a lot of people are saying this would be the week to put in Haskins because it's not a good defense. He'll be able to easily go in there. But I guess since that narrative to me, I guess, makes less sense because he's not starting. Like, why would you then pull Keenum to put Joyne in? I feel like why not just prepare with him as the quarterback? That's the best way he would succeed. So I guess evaluating my own worries, it's probably a little overblown. Moving on to running backs. So to recap, I got Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, that is. QB for AJ is Matt Ryan, and then Tony picked Case Keenum. All pretty cheap options. There's some top-heavy options to mention, like Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff. Those guys have a real chance of going off this week, but if you are looking to save a little money, I think we all gave some pretty decent looks out there. My running back this week is not top-heavy, and he is a guy I absolutely love, and that is Josh Jacobs. He is ridiculously cheap. So some guys going above Josh Jacobs. David Montgomery against the Vikings defense. Philip Lindsay against the Jacksonville defense. Sony Michel, who has been so TD dependent. I just, at 5,100, it's a steal even if I didn't fall in love with the matchup, but I am in love with the matchup against Indianapolis. Indianapolis has not been able to stop the run. They are missing 3 key starters on defense in Darius Leonard, Malik Hooker, and I can't remember the last one right now, but they are missing their starter. It's going to affect the run game when you're missing Leonard, and it is going to affect, I think, Josh Jacobs' explosiveness with Malik Hooker, because Malik Hooker is very good. He's just a really good overall safety. Sometimes he can track the running back. He can come into the box sometimes. Without those guys there, Jacobs has the opportunity to rush for a ton of yards. I think he's going to be used in the passing game a lot more. John Gruden came out and said, we want to use Jacobs more. We want to use him more in the passing game. John Gruden is a guy who will come out and tell you his exact game plan. That's just his personality. It's not very smart, but he does it, which is helpful for fantasy players. Again, $5,100. I think you're easily getting a floor of 15 points of like a 70 yards rushing, 35 yards receiving, and he definitely has the upside of breaking off huge plays, having some TDs, and we also have to remember he was sick and hurt the last 2 games. He played okay against the Vikings when he was in there. Against KC, he had a very efficient game for the 12, 15 touches he got, and then against Denver that first game he looked great. So I think there's no reason to be worried about Josh Jacobs' talent. I think this matchup is great, and I think his price is ridiculous. So there you go.
All pretty good points. I think the biggest thing of all there is you're probably going to get a low ownership.
That too.
I don't think Josh Jacobs is going to be any more than like 2% owned.
Oh, that would be beautiful. If I see that,
I'm fairly confident in that estimation, just because of the other guys that are going to be on the slate. I think Gallman is going to be extremely chalky. I'm forfeiting him in a lot of lineups. I'm not trying to eat that chalk. I'm trying to avoid it if I can. But Jacobs, man, I don't think Jacobs is going to be heavily owned at all.
No, and before we move on, just in my opinion, actually we'll get into it when we make a lineup at the end. I'll bring it back up.
Okay.
All right, go ahead with your running back choice.
Yeah, so my running back choice this week is the highest priced running back on the slate that is active, and that's Christian McCaffrey. At 8,800 points, he's getting usage that usually warrants around $10,000 in DraftKings, When Todd Gurley was at his peak, he was around 10 grand. We typically will see these elite level running backs with the incredible floors and the awesome ceilings be around not over 9,000 LOL. Usually around the $10,000 range. So Christian McCaffrey at this price is probably the lowest it'll be for the rest of the season, especially if Kyle Allen proves to be a half-decent quarterback like he proved last week. And I think that just going off that small sample size and based on what we saw from 2019 Cam Newton being injured, I think that Kyle Allen will be an upgrade for the offense. So going against a Houston Texans defense that is not very intimidating, in my opinion, I think Christian McCaffrey will be a focal point. He'll have his targets, which haven't been in an enormous target share in the last 2 games, but I still think that he is absolutely in play for 5 receptions and at least a touchdown with around 20 give or take attempts on the ground. So Christian McCaffrey has his volume locked in, and the production will always follow that for Christian McCaffrey. So I think he's someone that you should try to make budget for to have in your lineup if you can.
100% agree. I think
I agree with that too.
I think this week he gets more targets because it's not going to be as big of a blowout, and he's still going to get that great rushing total of 15 to 20 attempts. But I could see him going back to, even without Cam Newton there and it being Kyle Allen, getting close to 10 or 11 targets.
Yeah, it's not like a unique call, but I mean, just given that his price should be higher, that's still value, even though he's the highest owned and one of the best players on the slate.
And hopefully what you're hoping for is a DFS play is people still are worried about that Tampa Bay week, which I just think was a big fluke and really honestly poor play calling and poor play by Cam Newton that kind of caused that bad week. Because Tampa Bay went in there and they're like, we're going to just stop Christian McCaffrey, and then I don't know. It was a weird game to watch.
I mean, Kim was just missing wide open guys by like 10 yards. So
yeah,
you don't
exactly.
Even cover the pass game in that situation.
All right. So I like Tony's running back pick this week. Go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, so my pick is Mark Ingram. They're playing the Cleveland Browns, and just watching the last few games where I think Baltimore's had some pretty solid game scripts where you wouldn't think Mark Ingram would be as productive as he was, especially in that Miami game, but it's clear at this point it's basically his backfield until the game's over. So I love his touchdown upside. The way the Cleveland Browns have been playing on offense, I would not be surprised if there's quite a few turnovers on the short side of the field and he just punches in a couple easy runs to start off that game. So for the price compared to a lot of the other guys that are up there, like Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, I think he has just as good as upside as them, but he's going for like 2,000 less. And really, yeah, I really love his touchdown upside this week again, and Cleveland really hasn't been great against the run in general. I think part of the problem, too, where people might think that they're a little bit better than they are, is the Rams' running offense hasn't been as great as people expected, so they were able to kind of slow that down last week. But, yeah, I think he's just a great play. They're probably going to run more this game than they did in the KC game, even though he had 3 touchdowns that week. I think he gets more touches and just punches it in.
I think he's a good floor play, and it's just to get that 30-point game. It's literally just going to come down to when Marquise Brown or Mark Andrews catches the football or Lamar Jackson pulls off a big rush, do they get taken down inside the 10 or do they score? Because if they get taken down inside the 10, Mark Ingram's scoring a TD.
I also think like the Cleveland Browns are good enough against the tight end to maybe not have Mark Andrews be the red zone target as much this week, so they do look to Mark Ingram for those touchdowns.
I can see it. Definitely see it. And the big thing I do want to say, they don't have a lot of red zone threats. Like, all their guys in Baltimore, in my opinion, they're downfield threats. They're guys who get in open space, and it's like, in the red zone, it's basically Ingram or Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I think that he's a pretty good play, and part of the reason is the game script projects to be in his favor. I think that if the Browns win, it would be a decently large upset, considering what we've seen from the Browns thus far and what we've seen from the Ravens thus far. It's been complete opposites as far as, temperatures on how we expect these teams to go moving forward. And Ingram, another call by you guys, he's projected to be within 5 to 8% owned. That's based on Adam Levitan's DFS ownership projections. And I would agree with that. I think that Ingram is probably below a 10% guarantee, which is pretty good for being against the grain.
All right, so moving on to wide receivers, and I would love for you to keep that prediction handy, AJ, because my pick may be pretty chalky, but I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin. Even with the hammy, it's very concerning, and he's not a guy I would put in all your lineups because the last thing you want is it turns out to be a bigger deal. He's being a decoy, whatever. If he's, in fact, out, I will give you guys who I would pivot to, and a guy that I also would be playing in some of the other contests that I do because I don't want to fill my lineup with Terry McLaurin even if he is playing, and that's Curtis Samuel for only $100 more. So the two things going for both of these guys are the matchup. Houston's defense is not good against the pass. New York Giants basically don't have a secondary. Kyle Allen looked good enough that I feel very comfortable playing Curtis Samuel. Case Keenum looks good enough that I feel very comfortable playing Terry McLaurin. The difference for me is Terry McLaurin legitimately looks like he could be a wide receiver 1 on the season. And in this matchup, it's just ridiculous for 4,500. It's one of those things where if he was healthy, he'd be super chalked, but it's one of those plays that you have to do because the amount of points you'd get for 4,500 is just ridiculous. Because of the injury, I think you could take some chances. If he is playing, put him in there, and you might not get the same percentage ownership you'd expect. But again, if he's not playing in there, have no worries and just pivot to Curtis Samuels for me. I think he has an incredible upside and a really, really safe floor out in Carolina in this game script at Houston. We're going to skip AJ and go to Tony for your wide receiver pick.
So my wide receiver pick is Tyler Lockett. They're playing the Arizona Cardinals. And I think this is another one of those situations where it's two not so great defenses with two pretty decent offenses. So I think there's going to be a lot of points to be had in this game. Tyler Lockett's pretty much been a beast the whole season, even the first week where he only had one catch for 44 yards and a touchdown. He's just a really safe play, and I think he's also going to get the volume this week, especially with how terrible AZ is just in general on defense. And like I said, their offense is good enough to keep them in the game to where they have to keep passing. And there are still question marks with, does Chris Carson fumble one more time? Does Rashad Penny, is he for sure playing this week? If he does play, how healthy is he? If they run into situations like that at running back, they might be forced to pass the ball a little bit more than they're comfortable with. Yeah. And that just is going to be more plays for Tyler Lockett.
I am playing Tyler Lockett. He is a guy that I am playing basically in every lineup, and I'm just going to hope he doesn't get injured because
Jeez.
Well, the thing is with Tyler Lockett, you look at his target totals 14 and 12. I do not see that going down in this game. The only way it goes down is if they destroy Arizona, and I can't see their defense stopping Kyler Murray. Even if Kyler Murray's dinking and dunking, they're going to score enough points. And I don't know. Chris Carson's looked bad. Not just fumbles, but he just hasn't looked great. I think they go away from that game plan they had in Cincinnati, and they realize it didn't work because they almost lost to the freaking Bengals at home. That's not what you want to see. All right, AJ, you're back. First of all, do you have the projected ownership on Terry McLaurin, even with the injury?
Do. So this was last updated last night, but we knew about the injury last night.
Yeah.
Right now, because of that, it's looking less than 10%.
All right, so you know what? Throw him in a few of your lineups.
That'll probably jump like 5% if he is declared active.
No, yeah, for sure.
But still, I mean, that's better than what it should be if he's healthy. I mean, it's a risk. It's definitely a risk playing him.
It's one of those where maybe the way I'm gonna do it is my lowest money ones that are big multipliers or a tournament play. I'm gonna pick a couple lineups and put them in there because then it's like the reward there is just it way outweighs the risk.
Definitely.
Not
more
playing
of
him in a double up
tournament
because
play.
there's there's enough people that you don't need to play him in the double up and risk it.
Exactly. Yeah. Not
But if
the
he's
cash play.
if he's out though, Paul Richardson's like 3,700, and that just becomes an amazing play.
That's true. I was
Yeah, he's interesting too.
debating Paul Richardson or Traquan or
I mean, 3,700.
What's
for
the other?
possible wide receiver one?
Who's the other wide receiver there?
Trey Quinn.
Oh, Traquan. Thank you. All right. Anyway,
Yeah.
AJ, your wide receiver selection.
Yeah, so I have two selected here. One of them I have selected is Tyler Lockett. I think he's a great standalone play, even if you don't have Russell Wilson as your quarterback. So if you're looking for a stack, obviously Lockett's a no-brainer. But even without a stack, just piggybacking off of what Tony said, Lockett is just a great play. 6,300 is insane. I think he should be like 7,000, 6,900, just because of the pace that nice, just because of the pace that Arizona plays at every week, and the fact that their offense or their defense is trash. It just doesn't quite make sense to me that Lockett's this low priced. I haven't checked his ownership yet, but I'm sure it's going to be one of the high. Yeah, it's projected to be anywhere from 20 to 25, which I'm okay with. I'm still trying to get Lockett in those lineups. So my other pick that I have is Julio Jones, and this is another pick where, stack or not, I think Julio is a great pick. As a player, Julio is rarely below 8,000, and this is 2 weeks in a row where he is priced below 8,000. And last week he went cuckoo. His full stat line last week was 8 receptions for 128 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's just what Julio does. There's nobody on the Titans side that I think is going to shut him down this week at home. So I think him and Matt Ryan can both be large beneficiaries this week. So I'm looking for Julio anywhere I can get him.
Yeah. So would you select? So I know it's a little bit more. Just quickly put this out there: Hopkins or Julio? Because currently there's some lines that I have where I'm not going with the high running back plays, and I have just so much money at wide receiver I can pick anyone I want. A guy I think we all like is Keenan Allen this week. Obviously, with Mike Williams out, Hunter Henry's not there against Miami's defense. But Julio or Hopkins?
That's a good one, and I like Hopkins' counterpart in Will Fuller this week. Jeez, I'm gonna say Julio, and that could just be recency bias, but I think Julio. But they both have really good matchups this week. I mean, don't get me wrong; they are both excellent plays, and I think Hopkins has his vintage Hopkins game this week.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is I think neither of them are going to be very much owned, and that's partly because Julio, people overrate Tennessee's defense, and then Hopkins, they're worried about his last two performances. But they're both too cheap for what they are. These are things you want to look for DraftKings is when stuff like this happens, either a matchup that has recency bias or just a player being affected by recency bias. When these top players get under their normal salary, that's when you should start putting them in. And not only because it's cheaper, it's because other people are affected by that bias, and then they're not playing them. That's where you're able to make money off of DFS. All right. Moving on to tight end. So, this is how confident I am in my tight end play. I gave AJ basically 17 or 1.7 to 1 odds. I don't know what the best way to put that was.
Plus 170.
Plus 170 odds that Will Disley outscores Austin Hooper. If I win, I get 10. If he wins, he gets $17. I am that confident in Will Disley. He's going against a defense that literally makes tight ends look like Odell Beckham Jr. Hawkinson went off. Greg Olsen went off. I forgot who they played in the middle, but I'm sure he went off as well. Will Disley has looked like a main target for Russell Wilson. There's going to be passing in this game. It's going to be very high scoring. He had 7 targets last game, 5 targets in Pittsburgh. I think you're going to get 6 or 7 targets again, 5 or 6 receptions. The yardage total, I think, actually goes up in this game a little bit. I think he'll be a little bit more open against Arizona. Actually, I think the target total might skyrocket it. Let me rephrase that. I think his targets the last couple weeks weren't even against great matchups. They had good game scripts, not great matchups. This week, it's not just a great matchup, it's a great game script. Sorry for being very convoluting in the way I worded that. I think there's no way he doesn't score a touchdown this week. I think he's going to get tons of yards, tons of usage. He's such a safe play. And the thing is, his price is $3,600. He's going to be so freaking chalked. But as I was saying to AJ and Tony, it's hard to not play him even in this stupidly chalky matchup, because the only guys I can see even possibly outscoring him are Mark Andrews, Waller, Ingram, and Kelsey. I think Delaney Walker really doesn't have a chance to outscore him. I have no faith that Austin Hooper will, as you can tell by my freaking plus 170 bet with AJ. And Greg Olsen, I don't think outscores him. And all those guys are going for more. The only person that was brought up was Eric Ebron by Tony. If Ebron gets some crazy touchdowns against Oakland, which could happen with Hilton out, that is a guy that is closer to Disley's price range that also has upside. But I just think Disley's floor is like, you gotta play him, even with the chalk. Alright. AJ, go ahead.
Yeah, so Disley is definitely chalk, but I think at the tight end position it's okay to eat that considering your other options. If you're not reaching up for who else is at this position? Obviously Kelsey, which is pretty pricey this week.
Really pricey.
Or Ingram or Waller, and I do really like Waller, and especially in other mediums like Yahoo. He's way cheap compared to the field. Nothing wrong with Disley this week, of course, at all for his price and for the matchup. But I'm taking a pivot. So if you're trying to be somebody who isn't playing Disley this week, a play that I like is Vernon Davis. He's priced at $3,400, and he's going up against the Giants, which definitely is not a stout defense. And Vernon has the what I'm trying to say is Terry McLaurin is injured this week, so he's questionable. Even if he does play, I think Vernon Davis benefits from that. And we've seen Vernon Davis, after the catch, continue to look like vintage 49er Vernon Davis. It's just kind of insane. He seems to have the fountain of youth or something in his backyard. So I think Vernon Davis at 3,400 is a pretty good play, considering the matchup and considering that one of his main target competitions is hobbled. Going into Sunday.
I like it.
I like it too.
I don't think he has the upside that the other guys do. I'm worried about Vernon Davis because basically his season stats so far is kind of what I'm hoping for out of Will Disley. Like, I just don't know if Vernon Davis, even in that Philadelphia game, he had that incredible run after the catch where he hurdled somebody for a TD. But basically after that, he really hasn't gone much. And Case Keenum doesn't utilize his tight end a lot at all. Actually, he doesn't utilize him basically at all.
And they started using Sprinkle a little bit. So
Yeah, Jeremy Sprinkle in there definitely puts a wrinkle in the Vernon Davis projections, but
I think he's still
for
a
as
good
cheap,
floor play.
Yeah, for as cheap as he is.
All right. We'll move on to Tony's.
So my pick is hopefully is going to be a home run hit this week. He's disappointed the last couple weeks after having an amazing week one. It's TJ Hawkinson for 3,300. The Lions are playing the Chiefs this week, and I feel like every week whenever a team plays the Chiefs, like, you just got to try and get part of that game in your lineup because you know there's going to be a lot of points to be had by some players. And if Hawkinson doesn't have a good week this week, like, his hype train's just done. Like, if there's a week for him to have a big week, it's got to be this week. And he, like, if we're talking about upside, he could seriously put up like 30 plus points and be the tight end one if things go his way.
Well, the one thing I'm actually worried about is Kansas City seems to not be giving a lot up to the tight end. I mean, Mark Andrews was a little hobbled last week, but he didn't do anything. Darren Waller really didn't do much against Kansas City, and then the first week was Jacksonville, which I don't think they have
There's
tight
no
ends.
one, yeah,
So
they don't exist there. But I think Waller had an okay week. It
wasn't horrible.
Oakland team, just the whole Oakland team didn't look that great.
That's
Was,
true.
I think, part of the problem. But I mean, yeah, if they're still ranked like 23rd against the tight end, so it's not too bad.
No, and at 3,300, again, if you're making a pivot off the Will Disley chalk, you're getting $300 to put elsewhere, and you're getting a guy that obviously can be a home run hit. I mean, the thing to remember is he also has dropped 3 touchdowns this year. So if you add those drops in, he's an incredible play. The worry is, does Stafford stop throwing to him because he keeps dropping the damn ball? Does he just straight up keep dropping the damn ball? Or do you get the bonus of Stafford's like, no, dude, you got this, and then TJ Hawkinson remembers how to catch? If you get that, you probably get a touchdown this week in that Kansas City matchup, as long as he catches the ball.
Yeah.
We're just going to run through our DST plays. We're not going to go too into them. None of the DST plays we're in love with. There's nobody super cheap that I like. I was saying before we started recording, I wish I didn't have to play one because I just want to avoid negative points and put the money elsewhere. But obviously that wouldn't be fair. So I'm going to go with Baltimore. They're going against Baker Mayfield, who has been riddled with interceptions. They just turn the ball over a lot. Their special teams isn't bad, but it's not great. I think you have a chance at some special teams points. Yeah, nothing too crazy. I just don't see Cleveland scoring a ton of points. I definitely don't see the Ravens losing me anything. And at 3,200, it's obviously not super cheap, but again, the teams below that, you're pretty worried. Like the Ravens, I think will get me a solid 6 to 15 points. Everything below that, you could be looking at -4. AJ, you're going with a West Coast defense.
I am. West Coast defense at home. I'm going with the LA Football Rams. They have Tampa Bay this week, and I love the Rams this week because they get Jameis Winston, and I know Jameis is coming off his awesome performance against the New York Football Giants, and to me, I think that this is a good opportunity to use that recency bias against the Rams against the Bucks when you can. And I like the Rams because so far this season, they've been a pretty stout defense as far as allowing points. And they're going up against Winston, who is extremely turnover prone. And I think that the Rams are obviously in play to get some takeaways there. And with Aaron Donald rushing you in the pass rush, I mean, there's obviously some sacks in play as well. So I think they can really take advantage of Jameis Winston's mistakes without letting up too many points as well. So I see that as a high floor, high ceiling option at 3,500.
All right. Tony, your defense.
Yeah, I'm going with the Vikings against the Bears. I got a feeling this is going to be one of those games where just there's not many points to be scored, so you kind of have that good floor of it not being a blowout, and you have a good chance of Trubisky maybe turning the ball over. I think Taylor Gabriel's not playing this week, right? I think he's out, so that's just one less option for them to deal with. It could be, I think it's one of those games where both teams just try to keep the ball on the ground running, and just it's a low-scoring game, like a 10-7 game or something crazy like that.
Yeah, as a Viking fan, I'm not looking forward to watching this football game. As a Dalvin Cook owner in many fantasy leagues, I'm not looking forward to watching this football game. So let's move on to our steals. Mine is maybe chalky this week. I actually think you might be surprised by his ownership. It's Darren Williams, or Darrell Williams, excuse me. Big difference there. With the other Williams out, Darrell Williams last week, 9 attempts, 62 yards, 5 receptions for 47 yards. He looked good. McCoy, while practicing, limited a couple of times this week and then practicing normal. It was probably just a lingering injury. But the thing is, McCoy's old as hell. There's a good chance that he either aggravates the injury or he's just tired in this game. And Darrell Williams gets even more volume than you expect, and his efficiency last game was incredible. And that's against Baltimore's defense. So going up against Detroit, I have no worry about Darrell Williams' floor. I think this is his floor. What you saw last week at 15.9, that's what I'm expecting. at $4,700 is a stupidly good price to get you at least 15 points in your second running back spot to save you lots of money. But there is a world, if he gets the touchdowns, if he gets a little bit more usage because McCoy's tired, or McCoy's hurt, or he just looks better than McCoy, you could be looking at, the game-winning play here in Darrell Williams. I don't think Darwin Thompson showed enough to be even remotely worried about him getting into the play, into the picture. So yeah, I'm playing Darrell Williams. And the crowd goes.
Did you call him Darren again at the end?
No, Darrell.
That's the third D. Williams running back on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, there's a lot of D's.
It's the third that starts with a D. The other one's Thompson. Yeah, I think Darrell Williams is definitely an intriguing play, something that I definitely thought about. It's just the range of outcomes is still a little bit large in my opinion. I think that he could very easily come away with like only 4 points, and on the other hand, he could put up a 20-point game by putting a touchdown in the end zone, and then there's that range as well.
I disagree.
You don't think that Darrell Williams has the range of outcomes of scoring 5 points this game?
I really don't. So when I played him last week, right before the game came out, and it came out he was starting, I was like, you know what, I'm putting him in the lineup. So I watched the game pretty intensely, and he just looked so good. And it's not like he's getting that little usage. If he gets 10 attempts and 5 targets again, which I don't see why he would get any different of a workload, maybe slightly less. I think with that amount of targets especially, you're not going to get 4 points. I think he easily, with 5 targets in the Kansas City offense, that's worth 5 points on itself. Then you look at all the rushing, and again, Kansas City's offense, those rushing attempts are just worth more because the offense is so good, the defense is so spread out. They have to worry about Patrick Mahomes, who looks like one of the best quarterbacks ever playing the National Football League. I just can't see him getting 5 points. I really don't. I think his floor, like I said, maybe 15 is exaggerated, but I see it easily. Like, I don't see a world where he doesn't get me 10 points. 9 points.
It's definitely possible. I mean, he's a good play. It's just, I think that the risk is something that has to be acknowledged.
I don't know, man.
Those 5 targets, though, I'm more or less playing a little bit of devil's advocate, but also he's not somebody that, at the same time, I'm like super stoked to play in my lineup. So I'd rather go with a cheaper wideout and then save money there. But that's if I was you, I agree. I mean, if that was my pick, I would be harping on those 5 targets too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of targets and only 50% of a snap share. I mean,
and that's partly because
it definitely bodes well.
It's partly because McCoy also doesn't catch the ball. So, I think what you're hoping for, if you're playing Darrell Williams, is Stafford playing well. If Stafford plays well, keeps Detroit somewhat in that game, and Kansas City wants to throw the ball more, then Darrell Williams will be out there for 60% instead of 50% of snaps, and you maybe get 7 targets. And again, every target as a Kansas City running back, that's worth so many points, especially in DraftKings, which is PPR and with their bonuses. I mean, that's what you're hoping for. Anyway, let's move on. What's your steal of the week, AJ?
My steal of the week is your boy, Will Fuller V. 4,500 points this week, $4,500, excuse me, on DraftKings this week, and he is primed to explode. His target share has been there, his snap percentage has been there, the touchdowns just haven't, and they're going to be there. Will Fuller is fast, he is talented, and this is the game, if any, that he can do it. I don't know the exact name of the Carolina cornerback who is out this week, but I'll have to see if I can pull up that injury report. But he is one of their speedy corners, and he is not expected to play if not out. So just that injury, I think, helps out all pass catchers for Houston, but for Will Fuller at 4,500 to potentially be a slate breaker for you, I think is extremely enticing, especially considering his floor doesn't completely hinder you either. He's put up 8, 8, and 10, which you want the ceiling for Will Fuller, but those floors are not completely debilitating.
Yeah, I see your argument. I do think.
And it's Dante Jackson, by the way. Sorry,
Yeah.
he did not practice on Friday.
I mean, I'm shocked Carolina's second in the league against the pass. Tampa didn't pass the ball when they played them. It was weird. Kyler Murray looked like he was dinking and dunking a lot last week, and then Goff looked like classic road Goff against them. So it's like I really, this is one where I really don't know if I give it to randomness and just noise, or Carolina's pass D is actually decent. I think tonight I may actually rewatch those games and some condensed footage, because if they don't look that good and it just looks like the quarterbacks didn't play well against them, I'm on your side for Will Fuller, because Dante Jackson being out is a big deal, and then Watson's so freaking good. It's just maybe Carolina's secondary is actually pretty decent. Maybe their safeties cover pretty well. They limit everything underneath. In that case, I would be less excited about Fuller. I'm personally being honest, I don't know which one it is yet. I think our sample size is too small. All right, so Tony, I didn't even think about your steal. He wasn't even on my radar. I forgot he plays in the National Football League. Go ahead.
So my steal is Philip Dorsett for 4,700. The reason I like him this week, I think White is probably going to pretty much just be following Josh Gordon around the field. And Julian Edelman's, he's traveling with the team, but he's as much of a game time decision as anybody that's a game time decision could be. So he's like the definition of the term this week. So if Edelman doesn't play, Dorsett just gets a bigger boost, because I don't think Buffalo can afford to put their best cover corner on
Philip Dorsett.
Yeah, I don't think they can afford to do that. I think the Patriots have to pass the ball at least a little bit. I don't think this game gets out of hand to where they just end up running the ball as much as people are expecting them to. I mean, there's no tight ends that are going to be catching balls. Maybe James White might take some stuff, but other than that, I think Tom Brady has to throw a couple of touchdown passes, and if they're going to go to anybody this week, it's going to go to Dorsett. And just for that price, he's been top 20 this season, and getting a top 20 wide receiver that cheap. And he's definitely, I guarantee you're going to be the only person, whatever lineup you enter him in, that's playing him. So.
Yeah, he's a guy that I think, even unless you're a very analytical player and you're on top of everything, you just wouldn't think of Philip Dorsett with everybody else that's out there. But the thing, I personally, he's one of those guys that tomorrow morning when we do our live stream, if I hear Julian Edelman's out, Dorsett will go into a lineup or two.
Oh yeah.
But
his ownership would skyrocket if that happened.
I don't know if it would skyrocket. I think a lot of people think Buffalo Steve is just great, incredible.
That's true. Maybe not skyrocket, but obviously a bump.
No, yeah,
maybe not quite to the extent that I just said. But
I mean, I thought last week, Darrell Williams, when the news came out that he was starting, it would have gone a bigger bump than it did. Now that's a totally different situation, obviously, but I was the only one who owned him in any contest.
Yeah, I whenever that came out, I didn't take that for truth. It was just, I thought it was just beat writers just, oh yeah, Darrell Williams took first team reps. I didn't really take a lot of stock into that.
Yeah.
And so it seemed risky.
No,
it paid off clearly.
Yeah. I think the biggest point there is that White is following Josh Gordon around, and that makes, Josh Gordon's so good. As a fan of Josh Gordon, I want to say it's not going to affect him, but that's just silly. Obviously, it's going to affect him, especially his fantasy output. He's very touchdown dependent for me this week. I don't think he's going to be able to get the same volume, but I'm with you, the take on Dorsett. He might get 15 targets if Edelman's out and then White is following Josh Gordon around. He becomes an instant play for floor and ceiling. All right, so we're pretty far into this podcast, but screw it, why not? If you guys want to stick around and hear us put together a lineup, we're going to do it. So, let's work on this together, team. Between our 3 quarterbacks, I would like to go with Daniel Jones. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, he's the middle-priced one, so.
Yeah, I will say, again, shout out to 2 guys I really like this week at QB and Mahomes and Wilson, but I think we'll give ourselves some wiggle room with where to go with every other position. For running backs, I'm thinking we definitely play McCaffrey. I think that's you're looking at 30 to 40 points. Yeah, I mean, Houston's defense is so bad against running backs, especially pass catching running backs. You could, I mean, I don't know where his ceiling is. I mean, you can only imagine, 100 yards on the ground, 100 yards through the air with a TD in each in DraftKings format. That's just a stupid amount of points.
So who do we take a quarterback?
We went Danny Dimes and Christian McCaffrey so far.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, for running back 2, where do you guys go? I mean, we talked about Josh Jacobs, Mark Ingram. Is there a third guy maybe, either cheaper or more expensive you're thinking about? I actually personally will take this opportunity. I want to talk about it. I'm a little worried about Austin Eckler. I think the news is slowly starting to convince me that Melvin Gordon, I don't think you can start Melvin Gordon. Obviously, you're not playing him in DraftKings. But he might affect Austin Eckler in this game. Like, he might, get 35% of the snaps, 40% of the snaps. And it looked a lot better when Justin Jackson was out and Melvin Gordon wasn't played.
Yeah, I just, I don't think that they're going to give Melvin Gordon too many reps. So I'm expecting, I'm just thinking of Melvin Gordon as being Justin Jackson, and maybe even less than that, because, if it was Justin Jackson and he was healthy, then we would, there's potential for a blowout. Then that's Justin Jackson, pound the rock. We don't want to, put Eckler at risk. But now it's Melvin Gordon coming back from his very first game after his holdout. Now I think we can project, maybe 35% of the snaps, maybe 30%. It's not going to be much more than that, because they have gone out and said that they're going to put him on that snap count. So I still like Eckler a lot this week. But if you guys want to pivot, we can pivot and give ourselves some more dollars to play with at wideout.
I was going to say, I know Tony's in love with Josh Jacobs like me, so maybe we'll go with him.
Yeah, I was thinking Josh Jacobs. But I feel like in the Melvin situation, he basically came back around the same time that Zeke came back week 1. And Zeke got 50% of the snaps. And I don't...
Yeah, I feel like that's a different situation.
Yeah, true. I mean, Tony Pollard's not as good as Eckler, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean,
it is
did
Miami
they come back at the same time though? I mean,
well, it was a Wednesday versus a Thursday, I believe, right?
Yeah, but like Eckler's taking more reps, so he's more fresh. Like if this was Tony Pollard, and he had 3 weeks under his belt, then that would be something,
I see what you're saying. All right, for wide receiver, I think number 1, there is a world, and I think all of us kind of underlyingly believe, like subconsciously believe, that Miami is going to surprise in this game and the Chargers are going to disappoint. But Mike Williams is not playing. The only pass catch, and is Travis Benjamin out too? I know he's hurt.
Yeah, Dontrell Inman is like the number 2 right now.
Keenan Allen. No matter what happens in this game, Keenan Allen's not having a bad game. If they somehow fall behind and Phillip Rivers sucks, Keenan Allen's still going to have a good game. If they destroy Miami like we all think they will, Keenan Allen's going to have a good game. He may get 25 targets this game. Actually, I hope Josh Rosen plays out of his mind and destroys the Chargers defense by some miracle, because I think Keenan Allen could have the best wide receiver week of all time with the way Rivers has been targeting him.
I mean, we have to I know that we all think that this is going to be a little bit closer than it's projected, but I think it would be foolish for us not to consider the fact that we haven't seen a team in the NFL purposely and make their intentions known that they're not trying to win games.
No,
And that is clearly what's going on. And I think it's just to consider that we have to project ourselves. Okay, so how many pass attempts do we think Rivers is going to throw? I don't think it's going to be more than 30.
Well, even if it's not more than 30, I'll give the running backs, 25% of those, and I give Keenan Allen the other 75%.
Yeah, I mean, who's the tight end right now?
Virgil Green.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See. Okay, give him 2 targets, and then everything is Keenan Allen, man.
You feel, but so what happened, was it last week that Miami played Dallas, or is that the week?
Yeah, where they just passed the shit out of the ball and they got like 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, because Miami made it a little bit closer
exactly
than they expected.
That's what I'm hoping for, but I want to say, so many owners got into the trap that they were worried about that narrative. I was the only person in a 300-person multiplier to play Amari Cooper. I think there's 2 other people. That's insane. I mean,
people were definitely worried about the game script there.
And Amari Cooper, I mean, even against a good corner in Xavier Howard, that defense is just so bad Xavier Howard has no help. I think he doesn't care at this point either. He's like, screw it. Maybe if I play bad enough, they'll release me and I can join a team. Anyway, Keenan Allen, I think all of us agree with Tyler Lockett. That is 6,300 is kind of a must play. He's probably going to be a little chalky, but I don't care. I love him.
I want him.
Yeah. And then our third wide receiver. This is where we can discuss, because I think we can go a lot of different places here. How about let's go to our DST really quick, get that filled out so we can kind of see how much money we have left over.
Yeah, good idea.
I say the Ravens because they're the cheapest out of all the ones we talked about. Again, just to give us more to play with. Unless one of
yeah, that's fine.
Their line is trash, so we can get some points there. So.
And then we'll go to tight end. You guys are...
I think Disley.
Okay. I was the first person to put my picks into the Discord, so I may have cheated and got all the best picks that everyone agrees with. But all right, now the wide receiver and flex. So we got 10,100 left. We got 5,050. I brought up Curtis Samuel and McLaurin. You brought up Julio. That'd be kind of expensive at this point.
We're not getting Julio.
Yeah, I don't think we have the money for that one.
Well, do we have the money for this? 1 second. If we put Julio... No, okay, we definitely don't have the money for Julio.
No.
Never mind.
So if you're... Depending on who you're looking at, here's something that I do sometimes is I just, there's guys that I think are chalky and good plays, but, just to see what I can get if I get them. So I know none of us said Gallman, but he has a good matchup and he has caught balls in the past at a decent rate. So, I mean, if we put Gallman in there, what are the options at wide out and are they worth it?
I kind of like Preston Williams though.
I was going to say, what if we put Preston Williams in there at 3,900 with 12 targets last week? Well, how do you feel, AJ?
I don't hate it.
Okay.
We have 59 left.
We have 50, or we have 6,200. We got 6,200 left. We can go, so the top players available with putting Preston Williams in that flex, or the wide receiver 3. We got Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Godwin, Josh Gordon. At the running backs, we have Marlon Mack, Fournette. So anybody below them. Sterling Shepard's not a bad play. Anyone sound enticing? Kenny Golladay?
I feel like Shepard.
It sucks.
I can see Shepard being the best play, to be honest.
Shepard is a decent play for sure, especially since we have Danny Dimes. But a play that I think, and it sounds disgusting, right? Like I'm throwing up just thinking about it. Is Leonard Fournette? The volume is there for Leonard Fournette.
Denver is not good.
Yeah, it sucks that the volume is there. And Denver's absolutely underachieved this season as far as defense goes.
But against the run, they haven't been bad. I think Jacobs is a really good running back, and he played pretty well against them. But other than that, they gave the touchdowns to Aaron Jones, but they didn't give up anything else. And then against Chicago, they didn't really give up anything running the ball wise. That's what I'm worried about. I don't know. That feels icky. And
It does.
Is there? I feel like there's some guys a little bit cheaper. Like, I'd rather play Sterling Shepard than Leonard Fournette. I'd rather play, even though I was kind of talking trash, I'd rather play Chris Carson. What if we put, instead of Preston Williams? Well, no, I really like Preston Williams there. It's just like,
I mean, yeah, how much cheaper can you go there? That's the thing I was trying to find.
I don't think we could.
Nothing that's like viable in the slightest.
No. Yeah. We could maybe go, if we went Sterling Shepard, we would then have 4,300 if you take out Preston Williams. And that's not enough to get like a Curtis Samuel or McLaurin. Oof.
I kind of like Brandon Cooks though. The way the Bucks looked last week.
Yeah, I like all those pass catchers for the Rams this week.
All right, then we'll do Preston Williams and Brandon Cooks. There we go. So, the final lineup we made. Daniel Jones, McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, Preston Williams, Will Disley, Brandon Cooks, and the Ravens. How do you guys feel for a main set?
I like it.
A good tournament play.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know what? Let's throw them into a tournament.
Like, what are you going to do, like a $25 jukebox or something?
How do you think I'm made of money, AJ? Like you? I'm putting him in a $1
I'm at 25
tournament.
cent. I'm at a quarter.
No, I'm doing a $1
The
tournament.
quarter jukebox. All right, $1 high roller.
I know.
I meant to say the quarter one.
I honestly, I play a lot of multipliers and double ups. I usually don't do too many tournaments, so I don't know which tournaments are the best ones to enter, especially with $1.
A single entry one.
On the desktop, do they have it that they show how many entries it is? If there's an M, that means multi-entry.
Yeah,
right?
it's a multi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And G means it's guaranteed money, so it
I
doesn't
found
matter.
one. So I entered us in the NFL 20K Daily Dollar.
Yeah,
First
I love
place,
the daily dollar.
$1,500. So if we win it, we'll all split the money. And you guys will
Bet.
hear about it. This episode
Bet.
will go down.
It's on recording.
This episode will go down in history. It'll be seen by millions as us playing that first place lineup together. All right. Thank you guys for watching. That's it.
Yeah. Good luck this week, guys.
Have fun. Oh, tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time, or 12:30 East Coast. Watch our live stream. We will answer your questions. I think we've answered every single question we've been asked. We're starting to get more and more viewers, and we really appreciate you guys watching that. So if you stayed till the end for this DFS play, I'm sure you'll come and watch our live stream, and we really appreciate the viewership. All right, see you guys later.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.